What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's Actuali Podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm DJ.
And it's Meaning Making 101, our weekly live stream series where we try to make sense of this world together, that we may change this world from the inside out. Last week, we're covering Dad Saves America, recently released documentary, The Death of Debate. We're going to go ahead and continue that this episode. We got through most of part one last episode, so we're going to pick up where we left off, and then we're going to get into part two a little bit, which I've already watched some of. It's excellent. We're going to get into Socrates versus the Sophists, which it actually ties in very well to what we're going to be considering today. In The Death of Debate, the Marxist infiltration of our public school system as well as higher education and so forth. There's a lot to go into here, but let's leave it to the experts that have really done a lot of the legwork for us here, guys. So let's make sure we are supporting these people. Dad Saves America is doing great work out there. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and jump on over to where we left off last episode. Let's go.
How critical theory is radicalizing debate. Bodnick writes, instead of expanding students' worldviews, debate has increasingly narrowed to become a microcosm of critical theory. And she's not just running her mouth, she's crunched the numbers. Bodnick analyzed 8 years of one of the most prestigious high school tournaments in the country, and this is what she found. 67% of semifinal and final rounds in the all-important policy debates featured critical theory arguments. So what, you might say? Another conservative attacking establishment high school debate. Wrong. She's no MAGA activist. In fact, she's a Democratic Party activist who also goes to Harvard. Something about this story stuck with me, and it kept sticking with me. Because in a very real sense, it cuts to the very core of what motivates me and this channel. I've always basically been kind of a right-winger. I loved Alex P. Keaton as a kid.
Attached is a terrible, hairy, liberal monster.
My first trip to New York City in high school was to see Rush Limbaugh's TV show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rush Limbaugh.
With a fellow conservative girl from my social studies class named Gabby, who I also had a crush on and had no chance with otherwise. And every holiday, I cherished getting into raucous political debates with my Uncle Bill, a Philadelphia trial lawyer and a lifelong liberal Democrat, and one of the most important men in my life next to my own father. My relationship with my uncle taught me that you could deeply disagree about politics while still respecting and even loving your opponent.
Man, that's a key point right there that I think we've kind of lost track of, haven't we?
Yeah, well, you know, we're in the age of if we don't agree, I don't feel safe. And if I don't feel safe, there must be a threat. And if there's a threat and it's just the two of us, it must be you.
This is where we get the words or violence idea from.
Yeah. And, you know, you could say, okay, social media egged it on, but, you know, you can go even further back, you know, to what was on the TV, and you go even further back to what was on the radio.
Yep.
You know, it's really once, people are going to get mad at me for saying this, but once journalism got consumed by the unions, and which wasn't an organic thing. It was actually the journalists didn't like the unions, but you know, once they unionized and once they standardized and once they
the unions
started opening a school of journalism and started giving the Pulitzer Prize out, that's when we really started getting to this.
The quality of the unions seemed to depreciate over time.
Well, even in the beginning, like once, like I was.
There's always been corruption at the top. You know that.
Who was it? I believe it was. Oh man, well, might have been trigonometry. Yeah, it was trigonometry. They were interviewing this guy, and he was talking about, you know, like what happened to the media, and he was going through it. And basically, in the early even earlier, the media or the news, it was written by blue collar people. You know, the stay at home mom sending the kids off to school, concerned about that stuff, and those would be the journalists.
Journalism on the side, yeah.
And then the progressives wanted to take over in the early 1900s, and they're like, well, you know, we need unions, whether, you know, and this is speculation on my end, but probably so we can control what people say. And then
I need to hear the other side of this argument because I know a lot of the pros of unions, considering my own liberal background. but I have not looked into the other side of this. And I know it's true. If you don't know the other side, you really don't know your side, actually.
So,
in fact, if we're going to argue for our side, you should know the other side so well that you can repeat that person's ideal argument back to them in a way that they're like, heck yeah, I agree with that. So you really got to know their side well to be able to effectively debate against,
I think when it comes to certain fields,
so I can't speak on this very well. Go ahead.
But when it comes to certain fields, I think unions are detrimental. Like when it comes to government work, unions, no. And also when it comes to being a journalist, well, who's to say that I can't keep a journal and facts and video of what's going on and then sell it on my own time to somebody to broadcast or put out there? Like, no, well, you have to be part of the union. And well, if you're part of the union, you have to do what the union says. And depending on who are at the top of that said union, it causes problems. Whereas if you got like a factory workers union for this factory, so they don't get screwed over by their boss not paying them right and treating them like crap, that can work.
Right. But we're getting on a huge tangent here, though.
But the point I was making, though, is where did this start? Where when we disagree, I feel threatened. Where's the threat? There must be a threat. You must be the threat.
I think this is the weaponized cultural Marxism.
So it didn't start with just social media. It wasn't
so
just
I
because
feel like
the
they
TV
utilize institutions like unions.
Yeah, so directly what I'm saying is I'm building a timeline back from like we like to blame it on social media all the way back to when we were just print and early radio.
Right. Well, I mean, in this episode, we're going to go all the way back to how postmodernism is actually kind of history rhyming because back with the Sophists in the times of the Greek Republic.
Yeah, what he said.
We were dealing with the same kind of similar issue.
Yeah, but basically, it's not a new phenomenon. Right. But it's still one we're struggling with. Is like healthy debate. Yeah, how to go back to that and being able to really dig in and have a very intense debate with somebody. And
still
not
care
hate them
about
for
them.
it.
And still care about them.
And even enjoy it.
Still be able to love them and respect them and think highly of them. Yeah. Instead of just other them and turn them into a complete enemy because you dehumanize them to that degree because your next step, of course, is going to be violence.
Yeah.
It's the only reason you justify these kinds of dehumanizing terms that we utilize.
Sometimes it's fun.
This whole group is racist or this or that, Yeah.
But sometimes sometimes it's fun to yell with your friends at each other.
Right.
That's okay too.
Yeah. So let's go because I really want to get through the rest of this and then some of the next episode.
And that lesson is embedded in the other debate work I've done over the past decade, producing educational rap videos that pit big ideas against each other in steel-manned battles to the lyrical death. Keynes versus Hayek, Mises versus Marx, Al Gore versus Alex Epstein.
Just because you're moderate doesn't mean you're right. Extreme subversion's a common bias, B.
For real, on that point, we kind of agree.
I genuinely believe in the ethic of John Stuart Mill, who wrote, "He who knows only his own side of the case knows little of that. His reasons may be good, and no one may have been able to refute them. But if he is equally unable to refute the reasons on the opposite side, if he does not so much as know what they are, he has no ground for preferring either opinion. Nor is it enough that he should hear the opinions of adversaries from his own teachers, presented as they state them, and accompanied by what they offer as refutations. He must be able to hear them from persons who actually believe them. He must know them in their most plausible and persuasive form."
That's a really good point, too, because, let me bring that back up. Because we will often look to confirm our bias. You're trying to argue against something, you'll look up articles and things that prove your point without actually trying to disprove your point so you can better understand ways to rebut it. This is something we all fall into, so we got to be very wary of this propensity.
And you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't.
100%.
Be able to make your opponent's argument better than they're able to make it.
If you're really trying to figure out what's true, you need to look at beliefs and ideas that are different from your own. And you need to figure out, why would someone believe this? Why would a rational, sane, thoughtful person think that this is true?
Free and open debate is a fundamental part of my life, and that's why it struck such a huge chord in me when I read this article. It led to an interview with the source of the story, James Fishback. It led to my stint as a championship debate judge. And it led to very frank meetings with the NSDA, the league accused of being the woke evil empire by James and others. It led us to talk to all kinds of people of all political stripes, from Vivek Ramaswamy to Bill de Blasio, and of course, dozens and dozens of high school debate kids, coaches, and judges from across the country. Unashamed progressives, pushing an agenda.
I painted my own nails for young people to say that gender is a construct.
Rural conservatives who feel like they're being persecuted.
I'm literally a white guy staring you in the face, and all you want to tell me is how whites are nothing but racist people that want to keep African Americans down. And this is white people making this argument.
And the most amazing students you've ever seen who should give all of us hope for the future.
That is the problem with DEI. It is not only immoral, it is un-American to assume what someone's beliefs are and what someone's knowledge level is simply because where they come from. We have to have a merit-based system where we can look past our looks and look through our minds.
What we uncovered
Ooh, this is going to be good, guys.
So I with that too is like not, you know, like not assuming people believe certain beliefs because of, you know, where they come from or how they grew up or whatever. There's also the other end is like you have to be careful with the fact, like with trying to communicate when you're like explain stuff to make sure we're on the same page.
Oh yeah,
because some people can really take that as like,
what do you mean by that word?
Well, you're being preachy to, well, say like, you know, you use a word and then you're like,
defining terms,
defining it and going through,
making sure we understand it from
and
the
looking
same
for that. Some people can be like, well, now you're like challenging my intelligence and stuff like that and being preachy to me. And it's like, well, no, I don't mean to. Sorry, I've got, you know, resting preachy face, I guess. But there's a certain amount of delicacy with engaging with somebody to get them to join you in this conversation or debate, right?
Always.
And, you know, unless you've really trained yourself in it, it's kind of difficult to just naturally do. Because if you're like me, you just want to be like, hey, man, I want to share. Like, there's this thing that, you know, I learned or I figured out or something, or this thing I'm postulating. Like, what do you think? But in order for me to communicate that with you, I have to define all these things in a row. And I sound like I'm giving you a lecture. And I'm, in a way I am, but I'm like not. You know, like
how to have difficult conversations. There's a whole other string of episodes that we'll have to cover that. Peter Boghossian, which I just saw speaking here, the white-haired gentleman, he has a great series on this very subject. How to Have Impossible Conversations is the title of that series. So look that up, guys, because you'll notice what he does is he asks a lot of questions. And then his question asking allows the person he's asking to kind of maybe potentially realize the error of their thinking along the way, because he's so good at asking the right kinds of questions that helps somebody do that kind of self-reflection. So let's go ahead and pick this back up where we left off, fam. Here we go.
We have to have a merit-based system where we can look past our looks and look through our minds.
What we uncovered on this journey was not what I expected, and the story involves nearly every aspect of American culture. Free speech and open debate is woven into the very fabric of what it means to be an American, to be human.
Most human beings prior to the, I don't know, the 1800s, lived somewhere where you could be killed for insulting your neighbors. You could be killed for disagreeing with religious authorities or the king or whoever it was. After, you know, decades of religious warfare in Europe, they decided, let's try it some other way. Let's practice a new thing where I might dislike what you say, but I cannot engage in violence against you for it. I can't have you arrested because of it. And this has led to modernity, to civilization, to a decline in violence and conflict, and to human flourishing.
Debate has been integral to key moments that defined who we are, where we're going, and who would lead us.
There you go again.
It's been used by comedians, philosophers, and brilliant men and women to push the boundaries of how we think and what we can think.
You're making this harder than it is, and my concern is why, right?
Well, I don't think I am.
And recently, just in the past few years, free speech and open debate have been threatened in ways that many of us never thought possible.
Debate is a lost art, the art of understanding, the art especially of listening to each other. That's really what's changed in America. And we have evidence for that in a study that we created at Open to Debate, where we analyzed 20 years of presidential debates and saw a complete decline in civility, a decline in respect, a decline in the quality of moderation, of argumentation, answering a question, just following a basic structure that gets us to a conversation. And it's culminated this year in the most personal attacks, the least answered questions, really the lowest quality public policy debates that we've seen on record in this country.
No one up here is going to call you Donald Trump anymore. We're going to call you Donald Duck.
For the past 2 years, we've been...
That's what all the Republicans were trying to keep him out of the race. They tried really hard to keep him out.
No, there's a bunch of Republican defectors that just started acting like Democrats instead of Republicans because Trump, previously a Democrat, ran as a Republican and pissed some people off.
Yeah, he did.
Hey, you know, he ain't a perfect individual, but it's he's the wrecking ball we need.
You know, and watching these presidential debates over recent decades, it's really revealing because you can see what the public would allow as normal, like, communication to them, and as our communication just fell apart and we became more and more fiercely divided, you can see how much these politicians were able to get away with. No more substantive debates where they're actually showing respect to one another. They're just completely just throwing crap at one another.
I think this might also be tied into the trend towards orators talking to people from the stage opposed to speaking to people. Because the old speakers of the past would speak like we used to write. And then it kind of started turning into speaking like we talk to each other. That's the reason why they say Obama was such a great speaker. No, he was a good talker. He could talk to people, but he wasn't speaking.
It's a good conversationalist, perhaps.
Yeah, whereas we used to, our politicians and scholars used to engage in a very formal manner and with very precise language and within certain rules.
And with a degree of respect.
And now we're at the point where we write like we speak, opposed to speaking like we're writing as well. So think about how that's going to affect even global politics as this trend moves throughout the world. Because, debate is shot now. Now debate is just speak as fast as you can without breathing and throw out all these freaking points and do
good
all
examples of that.
And just mudslinging.
Yep.
So, yeah, long story short, I wonder, how tied the death of debate is to the death of proper speaking, or being an orator, and
literacy as well, probably.
And coming out, and because the more we listen to lower and lower levels of speech, the more we speak lower and lower. So it's just
so our reading comprehension, our literacy, our communication skills have depreciated. The culture has also become increasingly toxic, so there's less care and respect for one another. It's more about attacking and destroying rather than having a constructive kind of a dialogue where we're both realizing that we are lifting the world up together if we can get through this process properly and find out what is going to be a fair balance between our different ideas, because that's what we have to do. We have to find conciliation. We have to reach compromise of some sort to work together in this world.
Yeah.
So here we go.
We can do it. It's worth doing it.
Amen.
On a journey to understand what has happened to debate in our schools and our culture. How did we get to a place in America where a peaceful activist could be gunned down on a college campus for debating his opinions, and millions of our fellow citizens would celebrate it as an act of justice? Where do we go from here? And what must we as parents and citizens do to prevent the death of debate?
Here we go.
This is part 2.
Okay, we are off.
So that's the end of part 1, guys. Yeah. Now we're ready to jump into part 2. Any thoughts on that last little bit there?
Well, you celebrating that guy was singing "We Got," but has a sh at the beginning of it. Charlie in the neck, to the head, shoulders, knees, and toes. So not only are they cruel, they're infantile as well. And yet again,
gleefully so. Yeah.
Well,
gleefully celebrate.
Children, young children are cruel creatures. And, as we get older, we get a little bit more cruel as we go, until we really get socialized to realize, picking on people and doing all that nasty stuff is not good for us. It's not good for me, and it's not good for anybody else.
No. Yeah.
And, we don't really develop a true, fully honed sense of the other person's point of view, feelings, or even just opinions that they would have. We don't develop that until, late teenage years.
Right.
Into your 20s.
Yeah.
And now we've got people that are adults that are acting like, young teenagers.
And those of you that have made it into your 20s, do you remember looking back at yourself when you were a teenager, or even 18, 19, and the way you thought? And then when you're 25, you're looking back at yourself when you were 21, 22, 23, so forth. You keep on growing and being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I thought that way or believed some of those things. So the process of maturation continues. If you let it, it'll continue to the end of your life.
Yeah.
We're not static.
I just recently had my first crap. I'm closer to 40 than I am that I'm not. Oh no. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Moment.
Yeah, it's numbers. Don't even think about it. It's
wow.
You know, the stress is what ages us.
I've permanently looked, 32
Embrace.
since I was like 25, so it's fine. But
40s are the best years of my life so far, and I imagine the 50s will be even better.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you understand a lot more. You know what to expect. You've encountered a lot of different kinds of people. You know how to deal with them. There's a lot that comes with it. You've deepened your well of patience, and hopefully your consideration and your wisdom as well, so you can see around corners and see what's coming a little bit better.
Yeah.
All right, fam. Here we go. Part 2. This is it. This is so good. How Greek philosophers created Western civilization.
This is where I get a lot of my best thinking done. Walking my dog, Cheeky, every morning.
Cheeky.
And yes, her name is Cheeky.
Oh, she has cheeks.
It's where I get ideas for Dad Saves America.
Hey there, friends, fans, and foes of Dad Saves America.
It's where I think of new angles for our radical discourse rap videos.
Socialism's record isn't hard to parse. First it was tragedy, now it's a farce.
And it's where I've spent countless hours thinking about this series. I knew I wanted to make a film about this story as soon as I first read about the alleged critical theory takeover of high school debate. James Fishback, the author of the infamous article, dropped a follow-up, and he also agreed to sit down with me for an interview, so that was in the works. We'd have to see if he was willing to say on camera what he so aggressively put in print. Things like, the NSDA has allowed hundreds of judges with explicit left-wing bias to infiltrate the organization. These judges proudly display their ideological leanings in statements or paradigms on a public database maintained by the NSDA called Tabroom, where they declare that debaters who argue in favor of capitalism or Israel or the police will lose the rounds they're judging.
Automatically.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, yeah, because it's not
they're controlling the debate.
It's not within the criteria that they think they should be able to set, opposed to it being based off of like rules of debate and how. Like, 'cause what a debate is not to convince the other person that you're right. It's to bring other people that are watching the debate onto your side. As far as your side of the argument, you're convincing the crowd, or in this case, the judges.
Right.
But if the judges are going to say, well, if you're not following these, my paradigms.
The judges already have a preferred belief that they're setting forth. No, this is what we think should be reality. So if you speak against this, well, you're not leaving people room to debate.
Yeah, and
flex these ideas and prove their validity or not.
And in this case, they're taking the place of the crowd. If you were to have an open debate, the crowd would decide. Well, the judges decide. Also, they're judging you on your abilities and your techniques.
The way you would debate in like North Korea or China or something, or
no,
Soviet
if it was
Russia.
North Korea or China, well, let's say North Korea, it's like, well,
It's even, but you get the point.
I think
it's Orwellian, is what it is.
I think I love the great leader more than anybody else, and the person says, "Well, I don't think you love the great leader more than everybody else enough."
Yeah,
I think I love the great leader, more than everybody else.
Boy, oh boy,
we're not too far off from that, man. Decades are very short.
Look at the mess we've gotten ourselves into, guys.
Yeah. So,
all right, let's go on. Let's consider this very reasonable conservative gentleman here. Look for people of good faith on all sides of the political spectrum. It doesn't matter which way you swing politically. You want to understand all different perspectives, points of view you can get, because then you will have a wider overall perspective. You have a wider overall breadth of awareness and depth of awareness and consideration. Let's go.
For the record, these paradigms are no longer fully public and are more difficult to systematically review. Probably because of the negative press the NSDA received from these stories. That is, of course, one of the things I wanted to talk to them about, but so far they weren't willing to speak with us on the record. In the meantime, there was video evidence to go by, clips of so-called debate that looked anything but.
Everyone good? First, the critique. The alpha overlooks the necessary survival strategy of trans people of color self-defense. They cannot.
Here's the narrative you're voting on. The negative drop, the Danish one, which means we solve all the
We should be able to weigh between different political activities to determine what the best solutions are.
And then there was this.
Here's a black man black woman come up and help me build America. He said, now, if I don't make it, Bo, I'm taking you up and help me build America. That's right. It's not a historically negative language. Native groups have reappropriated the term tribe. Just
Modern day college debaters in the CETA Championship. This tournament is run by the largest policy debate association in the country.
I'm gonna speak these words. I'm gonna tell the blind man what he missed. So my brother's doing time, man, up in prison and thought they had to was something crime system.
How could
You're not even
this
a good poet.
be
Get out of here,
considered
bro.
debate at all? The motor mouth talk, the obscenity. Yes, these were college kids, but was high school just as bad as Fishback alleged? Getting to the bottom of it was going to take time. And as I kept thinking about debate and discourse, I started considering the roots of it and why it's so important, especially on those walks alone with Cheeky. I started getting philosophical. And I started thinking about how all of these big ideas fit together. It made me realize that if I wanted to really tell the story of high school debate and the story of debate in modern America, I had to go back in time, way back to ancient Greece.
Yeah,
the 5th
and
century.
we covered a lot of this in our Awakening from the Meaning Crisis series that John Papola put out on his channel. So that's something else if you guys want to take a really deep dive and build an incredibly powerful firewall against bullshit and self-deception and be able to tease apart what's happening in this world. Absolutely check out that Awakening series that John put out. We also did a watch along, all 50 episodes, so you can study along with us as well.
But you notice those, can't call them kids, they're college students, but those kids, are either speaking really fast and they do that like talk. It's like that's a stress building response and then a response to stress. And you'll see like, the super woke activist types, when they're like, trying to get their point across and talking, and when they speak to Congress or not Congress, but they speak to whoever they're speaking, they do that same thing and it stresses you out, which means you can't think. So you're not actually thinking about the point you're making.
Wow.
And then you've got the other emotional end where, you have those two cool black guys doing the I'm a cool black guy thing. And, like that whole thing, it's like, this isn't the time to be the, cool thing or the overly emotional thing.
In myself was I care about your emotion and the fact that you're an emotional being and that you matter. That gets across to me, but I don't understand why this is happening in a debate. I also don't understand why they're talking so fast that you can't understand what they're actually saying and what the point is that they're making. Is the point of this style of debate to just get as much information out that is allowed by the judges? Or just approved ideas as fast as possible.
Not even ideas.
In a way that seems emotionally provocative.
Not even ideas. It's get as many buzzwords or like thought terminating utterances out that are the right key words that the judges are looking for.
Checking off the approved narratives and so forth, but not actually making a coherent argument.
Yeah, or the overly poetic thing, and it's just like slam poetry sucked when it was big. I don't know why we're doing it again, and it doesn't really get a point across. I get you're appealing to emotions. But debate is not.
There's a lot of narcissism in that world.
Well, but like debate is not the place for that. Now, if you're like speaking to a group of people and you like, you're at a, an open mic or something else like that, use those, man, and tell your story that way. If that's how, if that's your mode of communication, there is an avenue.
Some of those people are talented. They're really good. Some of them are even great writers.
That one guy's line though, that was a booty line. I'm sorry, boy, that wasn't even good.
I don't even know why that's in a debate though either.
Well, it's not the right place. Open mic, hey, right on, dude, man. Good to get up there. You did great.
Yeah, that was powerfully expressive.
Hold your microphone a little closer to your face, but other than that, it's great.
Right, let's go. Let's let this man pick it back up.
BC to be exact. This is where most of Western civilization's roots really lie, including the principles of free speech and open debate. So, if we're going to talk about ancient Greece and speech, there's a few specific people and a few different methods of dialogue that we need to focus on. There's, of course, Socrates.
Look him up. Oh, it's under Socrates.
The granddaddy of them all. His question-based method of teaching, the Socratic method, is near and dear to my heart. So much so that I sent my son Mateo for a stretch to Acton Academy, where they use it religiously. In a sense, I try to use the Socratic method every week when I record our podcast. The show is all about asking questions, actively listening, thinking, and learning. With the occasional diatribe as question, I must admit, and thank you all for pointing that out. Before we get to Socrates, though, we need to talk about another group first, the Sophists.
Ah, the Sophists.
That's Jay Heinrichs.
go.
He's the author of Aristotle's Guide to Self-Persuasion and a slew of other books about rhetoric.
These guys named themselves. So sophist means wise one. And that was their own brand. They came up with it. God bless them.
Sophists were traveling teachers and speakers who got paid to instruct Greek men in arete, which means virtue or excellence.
So they were these itinerant, wandering scholars and orators. Now, at the time, speeches, theater, and sports were the three kinds of entertainment.
Are you not entertained?
Theater was like movies, but speeches were like the best documentaries.
For sophists, debate and rhetoric was less about finding absolute truth and more about making the best argument, convincing an audience, being persuasive. That certainly sounds a lot like today's world.
No puppet. No puppet. And it's pretty clear. It's Mayor Bowser. What is a woman?
I'm a woman. Are you a woman?
100%.
Donald Trump would sell this country for $1.
The sophists were people who not only gave these speeches, but also performed them. And so one who is both a teacher who charged vast amounts of money, but also gave the most popular speeches at the time was this man named Gorgias. Gorgias, some people pronounce it, but I prefer Gorgias because he was.
Gorgias was criticized by some for being a shallow, if effective, entertainer.
He was the rap star of the time. In fact, he spoke with this kind of rhythmic, highly elaborate kind of speech that's very similar to the way hip-hop stars perform today.
Well,
can be entrancing.
That sounds familiar. Remember the college debaters I showed you earlier?
Some say the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. I say the darker the flesh and the deeper the roots. Young, black, reckless, generation strapped and asking questions like, tell you what, I got I let this nigga fill my liver with these top six. As I sip, I get up.
Seems an awful lot like Gorgias and the Sophists, doesn't it?
Gorgias wowed the people. And he made so much money charging for his orations and charging people to teach how to orate that he actually allegedly had a solid gold statue of himself created. It would be like if Taylor Swift not only, performed, but also taught music for millions of dollars and then commissioned a solid gold statue of herself. I would personally go see that. But that's the equivalent of what Gorgias did.
Okay. What's up, Ninja Bat? Welcome. Yeah, charisma and hypnotic vocalizing. Yep, that seems to be exactly what Gorgias was utilizing. How we doing, brother? Good to see you, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Interestingly enough, rap as we know it, and so like, not to get too much into history, but the original rhyming structure of the original rap that came out in the United States actually comes from the Jews, from Hebrew. Like it's a Hebrew form of poetry. Like, bada 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 A, bada 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 B, bada 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 A,
numerical
bada, bada,
style,
bada, B.
timed, percussive style delivery. And I think you got that from some Irish Jake stuff and the mix in Appalachia too as well. The different cultures coming together. But poetry's always been a very popular
but the rap
thing.
Specifically, and
meter and poetry's always been a thing as well.
And you know who the first person to rap on TV? It was Blondie.
Blondie.
The first rap music video on TV was Blondie. But the idea though is, and the reason why we like rap, and I like rap. I like good rap. I don't like the crap, but like good rap,
old school hip
is
hop,
because you could feel and hear the early Sage Francis. Listen to his like earlier stuff. Like you could feel for him because he was actually putting it out there.
Mm-hmm.
But yet again, not debating. He may be making like very political points. He was quite the radical back then. Now he's part of the machine.
He was a lot more independently minded back in the day, but yeah, he's definitely gotten sucked in.
But
but you see that happen to a lot of incredibly intelligent people.
But it goes to sophistry. So this gorgeous fella
works on everyone, man.
He's using what's cool and capturing to really not say as much as he could be saying.
For sure, yeah.
Or should be saying if he was being intellectually honest.
Right. He's coming across to something that is very emotionally provocative, and so it seems like it might be weighty and have something behind it,
or just entertaining.
Yeah. It's definitely entertaining too. Yeah,
like old school talk radio, like in particular like shock radio. You didn't really learn anything from it, but you're like, yeah,
right. All right, let's go. Let's jump on back here, fam.
Theatrics aside, at least some of the ideas of these sophists make sense to me. I mean, it's a good skill to learn, right? Making a great argument that connects with people, it's really important for sales and pitching, something I've been doing as a producer and a small business owner for 25 years.
I want to share sort of our vision for how to tackle
the battle of ideas. And I can see how it would be useful in high school debate. This is how you win. But there's also problems that come up when people don't really care about what's right or wrong, and they only care about winning.
The Sophists were accused of relativism, the idea that there's no single truth. And I think that they deserved a lot of the criticism. One in particular said,
"Man is the measure of everything."
In other words, everything exists through the opinions of individual men.
That sounds downright postmodern, doesn't it?
Yeah,
you could see it fitting pretty comfortably in a modern, woke classroom.
They, them, is the measure of everything.
Gorgias, who I mentioned earlier, actually believed that there is no single reality. It's only what we believe reality to be. So reality not only doesn't exist, but if it did exist, we wouldn't be able to share it with one another.
Now, it's worth noting, a lot of what we know about Sophists comes from people who didn't like them, which brings us back to the master himself, Socrates.
Let's go.
Socrates. Socrates was a philosopher who wandered around asking people fundamental questions in a really cheerful way. But then he would drill down into the meaning of things. So he would say, so what do you do? Why do you do it? Why do you like what you do? What does that mean?
So where the Sophists were all about winning an argument, Socrates was all about finding truth. This resonates with me a lot. I love asking people questions. I'd frankly like to think that what we do at this channel is try to find the truth through discourse. And that's certainly what Socrates did. He sought the truth by asking questions.
And so he's constantly probing the meaning of things. And then he'd get together with these rich guys and they'd have a conversation. That was the famous dialogues.
Now look, nobody's going to compare Socrates to, say, Joe Rogan, but you can see that the ancient master might have approved of at least some of what we're doing today, seeking truth by talking, having conversations. It's amazing that thousands of years later, Socrates is still making his presence felt in schools all around the world.
I know that I know nothing, yet you are surrounded by knowledge. Does this abundance of facts truly make you wise?
Especially because we don't exactly know what Socrates thought about a lot of things. His famous dialogues weren't actually written down by him. They were written by his greatest student, Plato.
Socrates probably wasn't even literate. I mean, may have been. Nobody knows. But Plato clearly was.
Plato wrote dialogues starring Socrates, channeling his ideas. He also, of course,
because they killed his teacher.
Well, and his what his teachers say, like when they ask, what was the worst thing that we can, do to you? And he was like, well, the worst thing you could do to me was, keep me fed, give me shelter, clothe me, and let me continue to, postulate all this crap. And they're like, oh yeah, we got to take him out. But so there's a really good distinction.
It's like the worst thing you could do to me is make me have to keep dealing with you people.
Yeah, basically. But so there's a. I'm going to distill this down between the Sophists and Socrates so we can see it in our life. There is the making of a persuasive statement, and then there is asking a generative question. One is to persuade people to feel something or do something. The other is to generate new thought, new ideas.
One is just trying to generate agreement, not based off of substance, but based off of appearance and image.
Yeah, and then the question leads to more questions, which leads to more understanding.
The other's trying to actually build understanding.
So that's what's happening now today with our discourse. There's the soundbite, clickable, try to just quickly persuade people to feel or do or think certain things. And then there's the other that makes you uncomfortable because it's the question that generates an action. And people don't like questions, or we don't like questions, because when we're asked questions, we question ourselves, and that generates a bunch of thoughts that a lot of times we'd rather not be bothered with.
It's uncomfortable. It's taxing.
And
it's mentally taxing for us to consider new ideas. He gets into that.
And if you just think about the economy of the human system, I can understand the laziness towards that.
Yeah, no, it's the body's literally trying to budget its energy, so it will immediately push against things that challenge its basis for reality. This is why whenever we're talking about these kinds of things, we got to be very careful, understanding that opening somebody's mind is very much like brain surgery.
Actually, this goes to both King Master Tree and Ninja Bat. Talking about King Master Tree put up T. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. I think Yeah, so Ninja Bat, I think we significantly devolved from language, dress, and writing from the ancient masters.
Yep. Yeah, right before that, King Master T had said if more people could talk without getting too emotional, the world would be a better place for sure. 100%.
Yeah, and then the next one. And then Ninja Bat, you mentioned even our forefathers. We talked about that in the beginning, that even our forefathers spoke better and how it kind of degraded from speech to just talking.
Well, the average child around the time of Thomas Paine was typically knew 3 languages. They could read Latin, Greek, and they could speak it, and English, and they had... everybody always had epic poems that they memorized, their favorite poems, and we would share our poems and stories around like the dinner table or when we were bored. You know, it's the number one form of entertainment.
The typical literate child.
Yes,
because
but most children were going to these small country, schools
where they taught the trivium and the quadrivium, and the old kids taught the young kids.
Yep,
that's But when it comes back to debate, we're degenerating because it's the making of statements to try to convince people to feel or believe a certain way, opposed to asking the questions.
Yeah,
that
we're just trying to confirm bias, support our chosen ideology. We're not looking for truth anymore. We're just trying to battle, over power, because that's what people have been taught, that there's only power. There's no actual truth. Everything's subjective. Well, then where's the argument about power come from? You know.
And
if that's just another subjective truth, if that's your whole argument.
Well, and power is the ability to do work. That's literally, like, definitionally, physically what power is.
But you say 2 + 2 = 4 to these kinds of people, they're like, oh well, but
have I showed you this new form of Common Core math where you can make it 5?
How reliable subjective truth actually is. Let's go, jumping back.
Plenty of contributions of his own, including one, probably his most famous, that teaches us deep, fundamental lessons about free speech and debate: the allegory of the cave. The cave appears in Plato's Republic, Book 7, and the idea of it is simple but profound. Plato tells us to imagine a cave, and then imagine prisoners in that cave, chained up, facing a wall for their entire lives. Behind the prisoners, there's a fire, casting shadows onto the wall. Here's where it gets, philosophical. The prisoners think those shadows are reality, because the shadows are all the prisoners have ever seen, which makes perfect sense when you think about it. If all you ever saw were those shadows, of course you would think they were real, actual things, wouldn't you? You wouldn't know any better. Plato continues the mental exercise and suggests this idea. What if a prisoner were to escape, leave the cave, and see the real world? Then, what if he returned and told the rest of the prisoners what he had seen? What would happen? Plato gets pretty dark at this point.
We will not go!
Because what he theorizes is that the prisoners would reject the person who escaped, the person who learned the truth about the shadows, because the truth would shatter their worldview.
Yeah. Entire basis for
He
reality.
even speculates the other prisoners might kill the person who did nothing more than tell them what was real, tell them the truth. Pretty bleak stuff. So, what's the lesson here? Why does this matter today? Well, even thousands of years ago, Plato understood the way human beings trend towards consensus and confirmation bias.
Oh, yeah.
Now look, plenty of times there's good reasons for this. It can keep us safe. People can get more things done more efficiently when groups of us agree, instead of constantly being at each other's throats. It's also more efficient, since changing our minds takes a lot of neural energy and effort.
You need neural energy to be able to go and contemplate something that is very different to what you've thought is the truth. You are encountering new information, and your prefrontal cortex now has to make new connections. Now, if you've done these things before, you've got a neural pathway. You know exactly how it happens, and you save energy. That's what a habit is. A habit is formed so that you don't have to use a lot of neural energy.
But it also sometimes leads to us believing lies, like the prisoners in that cave. And even
this is exactly what we learned from Vervaeke, that the evolutionary attributes that we have that are here to aid us are double-edged swords. They can also cause us to self-deceive, to bullshit ourselves.
Yeah, and for those of you who are not familiar with Plato's cave, basically, like he said, prisoners for their entire lives looking at a wall with fire behind them and people putting shapes on the wall.
Yeah.
And then one prisoner turns and gets out. And I like to think he got blinded by the first fire, and that's why most people don't turn around, because that first fire seems so bright. And then he has to go through this struggling path through this cave and then out. into to ever increasing brighter light to the point where he's completely blinded and can't even see anything.
The light represents all this new knowledge.
Yeah,
you know?
And then after being completely blinded, finally acclimates to actually see the mountains on the horizon and what's there, which is completely out of his realm of understanding. And then it's like, man, I got to share it with my buddies. I got to go back down there and tell them that life is a lie. And then go back down there, and well, once he get first trouble, he gets killed for it.
He tells them their entire basis for reality isn't real, and then they're like, "This is all we know."
This is the first Matrix movie.
Yeah,
like to a T. That was a Plato's Cave movie, and Smiths would be, you know, the people who bludgeon you to death for bringing back the light with you, right? You know, because anyone could be Smith.
Yeah,
you know. But anyway, yeah. So that's basically the story, and I'm sure in most of y'all's lives, there's gotten a point where you actually got an understanding of what's going on, and it caused ostracization within your friend group, family.
Oh, yeah.
You know, other people. We've all been through that in one way or another. Even growing up when we're young and we finally figure out, like, you know, all this kid stuff is stupid. Now you're ostracized from your kids group.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And then you do it in adulthood, and there's a little bit more at stake.
Yeah. And here, Ninja Bat says, this is why we should respect and listen to our elders. Yeah, that generational transference we've lost, and we need the wisdom of our elders. They've been through a lot more life experience, time on this planet than we have. And then King Master T, look at the world today, and this is exactly what's happening. People don't want to believe, but the truth is objective. Truth is objective, absolutely. Of course. How else could we navigate? How else would Google Maps even work, or a space shuttle be able to be launched? It has to build anything that's reliable.
And Ninja Bat, I know they're on my head, but if I put them on, they give a real bad glare issue, and I have a hard time seeing other stuff. So, yes, thank you, though.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they do get lost up there.
You know, the Ninja Bat feminism is a major contributor to our failures. I would say the third wave feminism absolutely is.
Sure.
The first wave was just a push for egalitarianism, which you can make arguments both ways on that.
Yeah, but then it just turned to, like, you know, let's just if the patriarchy made everything, we have to destroy the patriarchy, which means we have to destroy
If it wasn't
everything.
already compromised. I was watching a recent Teal Swan, who we also covered on the relationship episode recently. She was talking about how the original push for women's suffrage was not popular among most women, because at the time you had to be willing to be drafted to go into war to be able to vote. And only 10 years before that had the rest of men in this country also gotten the right to vote. So only 10 years before women got the right to vote, the rest of men got the right to vote. And the push was actually from major multinational corporations and big banks. Because they wanted to be able to double the amount of people that they could tax, double the amount of people that were buying stuff. And so,
and also,
you know,
double the amount of people that you can manipulate emotionally for emotional causes. And I know
does this mean that women shouldn't? We're not saying that, but we're saying this is how it came about, and this is how easily we are manipulated. And so basically, the controllers, let's say, in this world, will see people starting to develop a mass movement in a certain direction. Then they will co-opt that movement, just like they did with the French Revolution. Or you can go through history, and you will see how they co-opt so that they can control it and channel it into a desired direction. So they do this with revolutions all of the time. And this is why we have to be ever watchful.
And that's what's good about debate, too. Because if, you know, you say you have, you know, big corporations and the government pushing this stuff, if we have healthy debate to be like, okay, well, I think that's crap, and I think they're controlling you, and here's why, and we can talk about it and get enough people being like, yeah, actually, it might be right, because that does look fishy now that I look at it, you know? Yeah, it does seem like somebobody's pulling my strings. And then other people are like, oh, no, let me sing a rap tune at you. Hey, hip kids, I'm one of you. You know?
Yeah, man. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate you too, friend.
Yeah, no
Appreciate
balance
it,
between emotion and logic anymore. That's the key, is balance. You know, you need an optimal blending of emotion and logic. Too logical, you can't empathize. Too emotional, you can't think.
Yeah, right. All right, let's see how much further we can get through this. We're getting near our wind down time here, guys, but let's get a little bit more of this episode in here before we wind it down. Let's go.
When we aren't sure about the consensus, we can often keep silent because we fear we're in the minority, when in fact, what we believe is actually broadly shared. This is what psychologist Todd Rose calls collective illusions.
The majority of people in a group believe the majority think something that they don't. They lead individuals to make decisions that are contrary to their private values. And as a result, the entire group can end up doing something that almost nobody wants, which is fatal to free society.
As social creatures, most people are deeply biologically and psychologically inclined to go along with the crowd, right or wrong, and ostracize those who don't. Plato understood the extreme danger of being a person who challenges the consensus, and that holds true today as much as it ever did. Just ask the doctors who dared challenge the medical experts during COVID, people like Dr. J. Bhattacharya, who's been on this show, and the other authors of the Great Barrington Declaration. They were among the few who opposed COVID lockdowns and mask mandates when the entire establishment was in favor of them. And like the mythical prisoner who escaped Plato's cave and returned with the truth, the authors of the Declaration were pilloried. Anthony Fauci called the Declaration ridiculous, total nonsense, and very dangerous. The so-called experts did not want debate. They tried to stop it at every turn. We all remember the phrase, trust the science, and Fauci's infamous proclamation.
They're really criticizing science.
That's how science
because
works.
I represent science.
As we now know, Bhattacharya and his allies were exactly right. It turns out,
let's go back.
Science.
As we now know,
they're really criticizing science. Because I represent science.
As we now know, Bhattacharya and his
allies science.
Further back.
And Fauci's infamous proclamation.
They're really criticizing science. Because I represent science.
Okay,
as we now know,
Bhattacharya and his allies. That is a sophist case in point.
They're really criticizing, and this is in reference to them criticizing him. They're really criticizing science because I represent science.
So you shouldn't criticize me because I represent this infallible construct.
Yeah, they're really.
That's not how science works, buddy.
Wait, Chris, you were criticizing me, which means you're criticizing God because I represent God. Just flip the words around. It's a cult.
Boy.
Oh man. Okay, but anyway, yeah, screw that guy. They had Fauci candles and those prayer candles and stuff like that. And Mr. Fauci, give me vaccines. They did the whole. Oh, God.
Wow, man. Yeah, Colbert and all of them, man.
Okay, man, that guy pisses me off.
Yeah, I know. It's sad to see guys that used to be a decent comedian back in the
I was
Daily
talking
Show
about
days.
Fauci, but
Colbert
just
I don't
makes
think
me
that guy was
sad.
ever a good human being. I don't know, man. I've seen his
maybe when he was a baby.
His research history on dogs.
Yeah.
Another episode.
Yeah.
Let's go.
We're exactly right. It turns out we should have had more debate at the time. Debate is how we break the spell of collective illusions and discover truth. Instead, we unleashed the hell of COVID authoritarianism on the world, and we and our kids are still suffering for it to this very day. Plato understood human nature all too well, the way we sometimes kill the messenger. His mentor, Socrates, actually was killed not long before Plato wrote the cave allegory, accused of corrupting the youth of Athens and worshiping false gods. He was put on trial, lost, and famously ordered to drink poisoned hemlock. That was all she wrote for Socrates. There's a lot of complexity and debate around the reasons for his trial and execution, but what we know for sure serves as a really good warning for today. Socrates made a lot of enemies because he was constantly questioning powerful and influential people in public. In fact, Plato quoted Socrates as saying, "I am that gadfly which God has attached to the state, and all day long I arouse and persuade and reproach each one of you." Put another way, he embarrassed politicians and the elite, which can be a pretty bad move, sometimes fatal, as we've seen throughout history through to today. Socrates can be seen as a martyr for free speech and a symbol of what happens when a society punishes open debate. Is it possible that our elite is filled with people just like the Sophists, just out there making arguments defending their side? And is that same elite, the media, politicians, academia, trying to destroy people like Socrates, who are in the arena saying things that are unpopular? Finally, how much of the good and how much of the bad from our roots in ancient Greece has infected the culture of high school debate? The biggest danger of all comes back to Plato's cave. Open debate, the battle of ideas, is the only way to ensure we won't all become prisoners in that cave. And yet, looking at the accusations against the NSDA, an extreme threat was starting to become clear. If this organization was actually shutting down debate, declaring certain ideas off limits, they were in essence rewarding the prisoners for staying ignorant. flipping the entire process on its head and creating mobs to go after anyone who came back to the cave and challenged the consensus with the truth.
Yeah, really well done. Thank you, John. So, guys, so check that out. The series, The Death of Debate by Dad Saves America. It is ongoing, and it's excellent, as you can see. Make sure that you are liking and subscribing to help John reach more people. Make sure that you are sharing this with more people as well, guys, what we're doing here. And as always, it's time for a good news roundup. There's enough freaking horrible news going on in the world that we are constantly battered with every day. So we always like to collect some of the good news that's going on out there.
All right, this one, everybody loves tacos, right? You love tacos?
Dude,
I love tacos.
I love this.
Hey, kids in school love tacos too. So here you go, some good news.
Partnership with Farms reinvents Kentucky school lunches, ending days of pan pizza and fruit cups. They never could cook the pizza right at my school. It's always doughy and nasty. I noticed how so many of us would always go and just spend our money on the cookies and the high C fruit punch instead of like the actual lunch food too, because we did have a snack zone you could go to and just get a bunch of sugar.
I had the state subsidized food program. I didn't get that option.
You know, these kids have ADD. You got to give them methamphetamines.
Yeah, give them methamphetamines and keep pumping them full of red food dye and sugar. Yeah, that'll do them good.
That'll do it. That'll do the trick. Yeah. Whether you are a student, an administrator, a farmer, or the journalist getting their teeth into the story of Kentucky schools' movement to buy and serve local produce, the consensus is clear. At Boyle County High School, locally raised beef, marinated in cumin, that alone right there, locally raised beef, is heaped onto corn tortillas with queso, guacamole, sharp red tomatoes, and vibrant lettuce. I love this. It's just one of the many meals the teens at Boyle get to enjoy, and a far cry from the days of fruit cups, pan pizza, skim milk, days which everyone involved are happy to see gone. Thank God, man. So this is so exciting to see. This is actually them taking advantage of a leftover grant from the pandemic era and recognizing that, I think, the recent moves that
and only $3.2 million
RFK has made.
Yeah, and only $3.2 million too.
Yep.
This wasn't like a $1 billion
this is actually
grant.
One of
this
the
was
poorest,
like chump change.
One of the poorest school districts in the world pulled this off. Anybody could do this. Yeah, cafeteria staff may just cook from scratch at times, depending on what produce is available. That's awesome. As the kids devour and delight, trust in the kitchen increases, and the cooks feel safe trying out new recipes. Several students told the NBC affiliate that the fajitas were 9.5 out of 10. Hey, let's go. I love it because I know that means they're enjoying it. We do prioritize these center-of-the-plate items. So items like beef that are going to feature as an entree. As a director, I prioritize that because I know the quality is noticeable when you buy the local product, and I think the kids notice that as well. This is so cool, man. Awesome. Love this. Yeah, focus on protein over carbs, real food.
Yeah.
Yep. Under the new direction of the American Health Society, the USDA dietary guidelines have featured, for the first time in their history, focus on protein over carbs and real food. Such good news. And I love the partnership with the local family farms. This is the way.
Yeah.
It's not that complicated. Here's another really good one. Speaking of not very profitable school or very well-funded school districts, how Mississippi moved from bottom to top in student reading achievement scores.
And Mississippi is like poor. Mississippi and West Virginia are like,
yeah, we're covering Kentucky and Mississippi here, man. Yeah. It's like three poor cousins here. So you won't find a more literate bunch of fourth graders anywhere in the nation than if you go and stand in a Mississippi elementary school. Over the last few years, the Magnolia State has risen from 49th in the country, to get this, for fourth grade readers, to #1 in both reading and math at the fourth grade, after adjusting for poverty and other socioeconomic factors. Let's see how that maps in here. The state's fourth graders exceeded the national reading average for the first time in 2024, according to the International Business Times, while its eighth graders ranked in the top 10 for reading and math. This is awesome. Okay, and the total educational attainment average across all grades ranked 16th in the country. That's incredible. The highest rank Mississippi has ever achieved. So we can tell that this is scaling across age groups. Proving the method can trump money, the southern state has achieved all of this despite being one of the very poorest in the country with some of the lowest per-student education budgets. In a review from The Week, the triumph seems to be rooted in two strong policy shifts: holding individual schools accountable for student performance and changing how reading is taught in school. Oh my gosh, actual accountability.
And it shows that
there's standards. Oh my God, we have to live up to standards.
Yeah, and it shows that you don't need like crap tons of money to get kids to learn.
Right.
It just turns out,
you just have to have care.
The time-tested techniques.
Use the time-tested actual techniques.
Remember Hooked on Phonics?
Hey, yeah, we're going to get back to that. That's what they've been using here. Good preview. So, yeah, regarding the form, it's something that many more affluent states have shied away from, giving schools an A through F grade, just like the school might give its students based on how well the students therein are performing. Regarding the latter, the key shift is towards mandating a style of literacy education that reflects advancements in the understanding of childhood neurosciences, specifically regarding phonics. The previous and still largely popular literacy instruction method called balanced literacy, which is BS, involves allowing the child the freedom to gravitate toward reading books they're interested in. They're a kid. How many different subjects are they even aware of? You have to turn them on to stuff. What are you doing?
Then what they do is they take all those like picture books that's all the queer TM stuff. And they're oh, look at this, and it's the only books in there. And then now your kid's like exposed to some weird like adult kinky crap done up for kids. And any of y'all think I'm a liar, go look up the books that actually got banned during the book banning.
Yeah, they think it's just Republicans banning books too, and it's just conservatives. It's actually even worse when you look at the leftists. And I'm not just talking about regular run-of-the-mill liberals. I'm talking about leftists engaging in leftism, which is a wholly different thing than liberalism.
Yeah,
we can get to that another time as well. We've covered this in the past, but can't cover everything every episode. So, but freaking awesome. Great news. Mississippi's Science of Reading method involves pairing reading time with precise and targeted instruction regarding the sounds that letter combinations make in the English language. What a crazy concept. Science of Reading proponents state that without these precise instructions, children may struggle to grasp certain phonics. Yeah, there's an actual etymology to how things fit together, which in turn shows their reading speed and frustrates them overall in trying to get through and finish books. Man, this is so cool. I love this.
Yeah,
they made it a non-negotiable aspect of their curriculum planning. Teachers are forced to actually have to teach these kids how to read and appoint literacy and math coaches to help teachers hone their skills. There's like 40% of students in schools right now that cannot read at all, and a lot of teachers are quitting. This is another thing that doesn't make it into the good news roundup. It's not good news, but I was reading about that recently
as well.
The fact
that Ivy League schools have remedial math and remedial reading classes for Ivy League schools, and a lot of college students can't read more than just a short paragraph anymore.
Yeah, right.
It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like we're kind of doomed. And
unless we turn it around.
Yeah, King Master T, yeah, I'm pretty sure you met this guy at an Applebee's in West Virginia too. Answer your question.
Yeah. What's up, brother? What's up, Jay? I remember you, man. Yeah, dude. Absolutely. Thanks for being here again, man. Absolutely. Guy on the right.
Wait, who's right? This guy?
This is DJ.
Yeah, I am an asshole.
I'm Chris.
Happily.
DJ.
Happily an asshole. I get along with assholes. But somebody's got to deal with the shit, right?
Amen to that, brother. Appreciate you guys so much, man. I had some other stuff loaded up on X. Should I even show any of these?
Yeah, sorry, Master T. You're calling yourself an asshole. I'm an asshole too. We're all assholes. Because he couldn't remember my name. It's fine.
Asshole mio.
Yeah. I'm an asshole. Yo, yo, yo.
That speech, Team America World Police.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into the whole thing because we'll probably
too complicated.
Get algorithm banned for all the
actually, we would. So here's something that is hard to take. This might mentally fatigue some of you guys out there. We've done the good news roundup. If anyone's still here, you guys are going to see a little bit of X posting that you won't be able to see elsewhere. So let's check this out. This is really okay. So this is powerful. Let's just let her speak. Go.
It's wild how short people's memories are.
Hold on, that's really quiet, guys. I apologize. I don't know why that's so quiet. We got her turned up. You might have to turn this up on your end, guys.
It's wild how short people's memories are. Under Obama administration, 56 people died under ICE custody. 56! That's not a conspiracy. That's public record. According to the ACLU, under Obama, under ICE, failures of medical care, ICE malpractice. The list is long as to why and how these deaths occurred. And somehow, no mass riots. Obama deported over 3 million people. Let's not forget that, people. I say that in so many of my videos. Millions! And a lot of them were fast removals. No real hearing, no judge, no full due process. And here's the part liberals don't like to bring up. They weren't citizens. Tom Homan? Yeah, that Tom Homan? He was running enforcement under Obama. And during that time, he was given an award back in 2015 for his work with ICE. Even Democratic states allowed ICE to do their job under Obama. Here's my thing. If you're going to be mad, be consistently mad. Liberals were not mad when ICE was doing their job. All 8 years with Obama, they weren't mad in the streets. Now, I'm not saying that deaths don't matter. They always do. I'm saying the outrage only appears when it's politically convenient.
Selective
AKA
outrage.
Selective outrage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sophists. Really well said. Really well said.
Yeah, well, I think it's good news that we have people talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm turning into a pumpkin.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Same here.
I get up super early now, so.
One more, guys. One more, and then we're going to close this out for the day.
We know how to do that.
Let me go back.
To every white liberal out in the streets claiming to fight white supremacy and stand up for Black and Hispanic people, go home. Everything you're doing is making life harder for the people you claim to support. Look around you. How many Black and Hispanic people are actually standing beside you right now? Because I promise you this, if Black people feel the need to fight for something, we know how to do that. We fought when dogs were unleashed on us. We fought when pressure washers were used to rip the skin off our bodies. We fought when we couldn't walk down the street without the threat of being lynched. We fought not to be oppressed anymore. And what you do stupefies people into thinking we still are. And Hispanics, they don't need you either. 50% of Latinos voted for Trump. Why? Because they and their families came here legally, did things the right way, and are tired of watching illegal immigrants get rewarded while they follow the rules. A lot of them live on the border and see what happens when there's an unhealthy influx of illegal immigrants in this country. They want deportations too. Your white privilege isn't helping anyone because it doesn't even exist, and believing that people of color can't stand up for themselves without your privilege leading the way is one of the most racist ideas there is. Google the white savior complex. White guilt has been imposed on you so deeply to the point that you feel like it's your duty to hold up posters and vandalize things with your delusions, leading people to think I support it because of my skin color. Get it? Stop. Go home. And get a job. It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
To every white liberal out.
It's Tuesday.
Yeah, so okay, that'll make you happy. But yeah, for real, yet again, the public debate has become skewed, and it's just about emotions, fancy words, and what they call awfuls, which are affluent white liberal females. Sorry, ladies, but the awful, and not all ladies are awfuls, but the awfuls are awful.
Or
go out there and shriek out. What was it in 1984? About the women. They're the swallowers of slogans. Talking specifically about the activist types.
The women and the children are the most dangerous. The children worst of all.
Well, why do you think? Well, they went after the women with the voting stuff and the modern feminism and all that stuff, and then they started doing it in school and radicalizing the children.
Yeah.
They literally took 1984 and used it as a manual.
Yeah, they did.
Oh yeah,
yeah, they did.
Oh yeah. So scary world.
Yeah, and this isn't because women are inferior in some way or anything like that. It's just because we think and work differently, and women's ways of getting things done are different than men. So if you can convince women of an idea, they're going to be able to use some very, very powerful, subversive kinds of techniques to get at you. And boy, does bad ideology become even scarier in the hands of that kind of energy.
So the last things here, Ninja Bat said to Master Tree, DJ had an afro until last week, and
true story.
Master Tree said he was very upset that he missed that. Well, you can go back to our early episodes, and we have a 50-part lecture series on John Vervaeke's Awakening from the Meaning Crisis, where I'm at like full fro and like full bearded mess, not the clean, upstanding citizen you see in front of you now.
You clean up nice, though, brother.
It's
nice.
all an illusion.
Isn't
I've always
it all?
been a good, upstanding citizen.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Meaning Making 101, where we try to make sense of this crazy, wild world together, that we may, in fact, change this world from the inside out. The most effective way we have to create long-term lasting change, right? Because we are society. Society is not some separate thing. No, you can start the music. It's good.
Didn't mean to. Sorry.
That's all right, but we're about to dance our way on out of here, guys, and you can dance on too. So let's go. We'll see you next week, 7 PEST, everywhere that live streams are found. Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble. We are everywhere.
Yep.
X.
I've been DJ.
I've been Chris.
Peace.
See y'all next time.
Royalty-free music. Yeah.
That's right. It's the best royalty-free song I ever found. Right here.
It's better than Muzak, which you actually had to pay for.
It's true.